like I say, I've been lucky enough to like jump on some like really big brands and do some big branding projects. If it doesn't work out, there's no shame in like jumping back into a job. We're all doomed. The robots are taking over.
Yeah.
100%. That's it.
Scary Mary.
I think people are scared of it, and if you don't really understand something, know what it is a bit scary.
So I'm excited to be joined by our guest, Jordan Yates. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Great. So Jordan Yates is a designer, illustrator and animator and runs a freelance practice called Studio Anti-Gravity. Over the past 10 years, Jordan has created diverse brands, eye-catching illustrations, groundbreaking animations for clients such as Kellogg's, Mars, Co-op, Circle Square and many more. When Jordan's not designing, you'll find him running around the Peak District. Very cool. Playing video games and speaking at a variety of networking events across the Northwest. And Jordan also runs a Design Recovery, a free mental health event, which aims to be a safe space for people to speak openly about their mental health.
That's me, in a nutshell.
Yeah. So, Jordan, your topic today is freelancing and how to get into freelancing and the challenges that come about with freelancing.
Yeah.
So my first question would be, what made you decide to get into freelancing?
Ooh, that's good. Good start. Yeah, there's quite a few reasons. I think obviously like one of the things that attracts like everyone to freelance is, you know, it's literally embedded in the name. It's the freedom to be your own boss, to do, you know, kind of narrow down what kind of work you want, things like that. And that was like a big thing. But to be honest, the biggest thing for me was like working directly with clients and like, you know, I loved agency life. I worked in an agency for like 4 or 5 years up until that point, and I was just missing that little bit of human interaction. Like, I love nothing more than like sitting directly with people and like kind of being like, all right, how can we like make your brand move, or can we add some illustration to your brand and things like that. And like when I started like freelancing on the side of work as like a bit of a side hustle at first, that was the thing I used to get the biggest like kick out of. I think one of my first projects, I did like a big illustration project, and I went into an agency like after work and met up with the team and like was sat around with everyone coming up with all these ideas, and it was just wicked. And I kind of like got hooked off that really, and I still am now. Like, you know, I still love, like, I get such a buzz out of meeting people, and yeah, and that was like a real core sort of defining factor for me to jump into it.
I know you've been freelancing for quite a few years now. Is it about 5 years?
Yeah.
So what would you say has been your main challenges with getting into freelancing?
Ooh, I think like, yeah, the biggest one, I think, and I think this is like really common for like everyone thinks like, oh, freelance, I'd jump into that. Easy, just quit your job, just go for it. And I think the real challenge is like trying to build up stuff beforehand. I was quite lucky where like I said, I go to like loads and loads of events, right? And I just used to go there, tell everyone I was wanting to be freelance one day, get loads of advice off people, really start to like pull loads of knowledge. But what I didn't realize as well is that whilst doing that and sort of saying to people, I'm going to be freelance one day, I was kind of almost like building a little bit of a client roster at the same time, because people were kind of being like, when I did go freelance, people were like, oh God, yeah, he's been talking about going freelance for ages, and sort of building a bit of a network around you of potential clients and just people you can lean on. And then when I jumped into freelance, it didn't feel as much a challenge. It didn't feel like I was starting from scratch, because for me, for example, I was in an agency for a while, and then I kind of like jumped to like a part-time job, start to build up on things on the side, just made sure I kept meeting up with people, growing a network, growing like a client base. And then COVID hit, and like for me personally, like animation and illustration just skyrocketed because no one could do anything in person. No. So, and then that was like the crux where I was like, okay, now I feel ready to go. I think that's another difference as well. Like, I think if you're like currently like thinking, oh, I'll go freelance one day, I think you'll know when it's like time, when you're busy enough and you're kind of pulling your hair out because you're that busy, that's probably a really good time to go for it. And then, yeah, like, and you just kind of keep building that. So that was like the biggest challenge, was kind of getting the foundation set up before jumping in. And then kind of, you know, it's like a bit of a train. You've got to keep it like going as well. Make sure you've got the momentum going and keep building that network and client base.
What advice would you give to someone who's looking to find that confidence to move into freelancing from their side hustle?
I think the biggest thing as well, like, I think as I was saying, like, about getting like the network, right?
Yeah.
I think one of the best things I found is like, if I went into this without speaking to anyone who was a freelancer beforehand, about freelancing, I think I would be so lost. I wouldn't have the confidence.
Yeah.
You know, I spent like a few years like talking to people. Even now, I've got a mentor that I work with who still I meet up with him like every couple of months, and to keep like that development going, keep making sure that I'm on the right path as a freelancer and stuff like that. And I think if you're like struggling with that confidence to feel like, I don't know if I'm ready to go, I think it's like a twofold thing of like, right, okay, first and foremost, do I feel like I know everything I need to know before making the jump? You know, have I spoken to people? Have I done enough research into how it all works? You know, even things like tax and things like that you need to kind of know, right, before jumping into it. Because if you jump into it and don't know, it ends up flapping when it gets to April.
Yeah.
But combining that with like your own knowledge from like a good, strong network, and then I don't know, for me, it was just kind of like, you just get this gut feeling that it feels right.
Yeah.
Like, if you feel like you've got all your ducks lined up, it's still a jump. People say it's like jump into freelancing, because it is a jump.
Yeah.
And as long as you feel like you're going to be all right, then go for it. And if you're unsure, but you still feel like you've got enough knowledge behind you to do it, then give it a go. Also, the worst case scenario of freelance, if it doesn't work out, there's no shame in like jumping back into a job. Like, you can always try it out and go, okay, this didn't work. If I want to continue and really focus on it, what can I do to kind of like make sure that happens next time? Learn from it. And yeah, there's so many resources and lovely people out there as well that will be willing to help you get ready for that big jump.
Yeah, it shows you've got the grit and like dedication to starting a business and trying to do it. So if it doesn't work, then at least you've got that to say, oh, well, I tried. And,
give it a go, and you know what, you can always come back to it.
Yeah. Okay. So what would you say is your favourite project that you've worked on during your time in freelancing?
Ooh, there is loads. I'm really lucky that there's absolutely loads. Like I say, I've been lucky enough to like jump on some like really big brands and do some big branding projects, some crazy animations and things like that. But I think one of my favorite ones, which isn't what you'd expect it to be, and I think that's why I like it so much, is I worked with an agency last year called MC Saatchi, based in London, and like the team there are absolutely lovely. They, you know, when it comes to like working with them and their clients, we can go crazy with some of our ideas, and the clients are normally pretty on board with it as well. And London Stansted Airport came through with a brief, which was they had these like different spaces that needed just a bit of life and a bit of like vibrancy to them. They were quite, you know, droll sort of spaces. Like one of them was like a relaxation lounge, which was all about like kind of like decompressing before going on your flight. And it was just like white walls. It was very like droll and boring. So we created some like really like interactive and like calming graphics for that, alongside like some like poetry to calm people down. But out of the rooms, my favorite one, weirdly, was the toilets. We had this like space in these toilets where we needed to make something engaging, something that, you know, you don't ever traditionally think that that's going to be somewhere you'd find some like nice artwork or something that you'd walk out and be like, oh my God, did you see that kind of thing? And basically we came up with this tagline called Have You Been? As a play on words of like, have you been to Lou, but also have you been to a certain destination that's linking to that particular airport. So I created this like fully like illustrated like mural with like one line, which was linked to the LSA brand. And essentially the mural was all these like different like facts and about different destinations you can go to from that particular terminal. And there was like a QR code, so you can get like a guide to some of these like really random things that you wouldn't, kind of a bit off the beaten path, some of them as well. Like there was one that was like a beer bath in one location, so I had a great fun just drawing a little dude in his beer bath. And yeah, like it was really well received. I still yet to go to the airport myself and get a flight from there. I feel like I might look really weird just like stood in the toilets, like looking at my own artwork, being like, oh my God, this is so cool. But yeah, that one, I got such like satisfaction out of it. Just taking something that's like not traditional, engaging, and flipping on its head and making it something really engaging. I think at the core of it, that's kind of what you do as a designer and animator and illustrator. It's taking something like a brand or making it engaging, making a space or like I say, a brand or a video, anything more engaging, and to, you know, connect with an audience in some way.
Making people's time on the toilet better.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Making your trip to the loo a bit more fun.
So yeah, from your past your experience in freelancing, How would you say the world of freelancing has changed since you've been in freelancing? And would you say it's easier or harder to get into freelancing due to any changes?
So yeah, I think I'd say that it's probably a little harder now, if I'm honest. I think one thing in particular is like when I first started out, like Instagram was like instrumental for for freelancers and stuff. Like you get work on there, and you know, for me it was never about like the likes. It was always about views, making sure people saw it. And like just social in general is quite hard now, I think, for designers and freelancers, because obviously you've got to put a bit more of your like face on there, and you know, not everyone's like very, you know, extroverted and things like that, so that makes it a little bit harder. And I think as well, like there seems to be like a lot more freelancers, which is great, which is amazing, and you know, all power to it. But it does obviously mean there's a bit of a broader market to jump into, I think.
So how would you say with the rise of AI, it's going to impact the freelancing world?
We're all doomed. The robots are taking over. 100%. That's it.
Scary Mary.
I think people are scared of it, and I think, you know, most things in life that if you don't really understand something, know what it is a bit scary. But if you get to grips with it and understand it, like it's a tool like anything else. I mean, there's a lot of freelancers I've spoken to who feel the same way of like, oh my God, I'm so scared this is going to take my job, blah, blah, blah. But I think if you look back to when Shutterstock first launched, right? Or I think Shutterstock was the first, maybe it was Getty Images, and photographers must have been terrified. It must have been like, everyone can get pictures online now, they don't need me. But all that did is just make photographers more lucrative and actually help them out in the long run, right? You know, because anyone can go on Shutterstock and download an image, but if you want something really bespoke, then you go to a photographer. I think the same thing's going to happen with creative. I think right now we're probably seeing a dip where brands are trying AI stuff and it's working to varying success. Like Toys R Us recently released a AI advert. The whole thing was fully AI. And honestly, it looks like a Blumhouse horror. It really does. Like, it looks like it's very like eerie, you know, for something that's so like kids are front and center of it. All these AI kids with like the odd extra finger just looks a bit weird, you know, but fair play to them trying it. I think, you know, there's nothing to say that you couldn't do an AI advert, but I still think you need that creative touch to just bring in, like, you know, for me, that advert, for example, didn't scream Toys R Us. It screamed AI, right? There's nothing to say you couldn't use it, create an AI advert, bring a creative in to make sure we're still getting those brand top points, that it looks Toys R Us. And it's a tool. Like, at the end of the day, Photoshop has just, is absolutely smashing it with this generative fill. And, you know, I used to work in a lot of like fashion brands and stuff, and you have to like cut people out, and, you know, or if you needed to extend the background, you have to go in and manually Photoshop it. No, I can just draw a box, generative fill, does it for you. Saves me hours of work, and that's good. That's a good thing for me and the client. So like we don't need to be so scared of it. Like Skynet's not coming for us just yet. Just see it as a tool and just realize that right now it's just in its early stages. Things will like flatten off and people will use it. And also I feel like the more people that use loads of AI, it'll become a bit of a crowded market. If everyone's using AI, everyone looks the same, unless you have that creative touch on it to try and like, you know, make it more unique to your brand.
Yeah, like you say, it's just using it to your advantage.
Exactly.
If you're a podcaster, it can sometimes be a bit difficult to find guests. Equally, if you're a guest looking for podcasts to appear on, it's not always easy to find them. Thankfully, our sister company, MatchMaker.fm, has an app to do just that. With over 70,000 users, MatchMaker FM is the best place to find, contact, and collaborate with like-minded creatives. Cut out all the time wasters and build a community of world-class content creators. And the best part? You can sign up today for free. So head over to MatchMaker.fm to get started.
So what's the one thing that our listeners should know about getting into freelancing?
Ooh, one thing. Oh, there's so many things. I think the one thing to know is that when you jump into freelance, if you've grinded and built up to that point, it's not like any other job. It's the most rewarding and satisfying thing ever, but you've got to keep putting the work in. I mean, there's that old saying, right? I mean, it's a cheesy saying about like work hard, play hard, but I think literally one of the most rewarding things about freelancing is the more you put in, the more you get out, right? And as long as you're like willing to like do that and keep putting more in, you'll get so much more out of it. For me, like, it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done. Like, working with people directly and just being your own boss and just having the freedom whilst also just like, yeah, just doing really creative stuff is a dream come true. But yeah, work hard, play hard, I guess is what I'm kind of saying.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
That works.
Yeah, good advice. Okay, and how would our listeners, I'll ask that again because I was looking at them. How would our listeners be able to find you and your services?
Ooh, okay. So I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn as Studio Anti-Gravity. I've got a new website that's up and running. And yeah, I'm on YouTube as well. So, and yeah, that's where I'm at, really.
Coolio. And that's the end of today's episode. I just want to say a big thank you to today's guests for their valuable insights. If you like the show, why not share with a friend or subscribe so you never miss the one thing you should know.